I'm just kind of guiding off history and what's worked well for me and what hasn't. And I mean, things have generally worked pretty well for me, but it's you can always improve. And for me, starting companies and getting them up and running is something I'm just really uniquely good at. And I know sort of how to come up with great businesses, attract talent, get things off the ground, get things to a starting point that's reasonable. After that, I think I'm still really good, but a lot of people can do the next part. Not many people can do the first part. So that's kind of my story, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm not like somebody that's ever gonna be punching a clock or something like that. I think those days are long, long gone. Never say never. So many M's. So right now I'm banned from pharmaceuticals in the United States. As weird as that is. So I can't get like a drug FDA approved or something like that, but the rest of the world is actually pretty open to me. So I'm trying to decide what to do in pharma. I'm kind of putting things on pause while I appeal that ruling. So I could theoretically still do a bunch of stuff in pharma, but let me fight the government first, and then when I'm done fighting, I can then decide how to proceed. I like pharma, but I like software a lot too. So there's nothing like software. It's really fun, interesting. You can kind of do a lot of stuff by yourself or with a small team. Doesn't take much capital. Pharma takes a huge amount of capital, and with all that capital comes a lot of sort of politically correct and institutional stuff. Because if you need $100 million just to get a drug into people or something like that, it's really cumbersome. I mean, you need a ton of capital. That means kind of playing by a certain set of rules that are difficult to play by. Look at Twitter, right? I mean, the guy's just doing some layoffs, and he's getting, he's doing layoffs to correct a mistake that somebody else made, right? And nobody's. I'm actually going to write a Substack about this because nobody's blaming the guy who hired all these people. Because if Elon's sitting there saying, well, this place is way too crowded, right? There's way too many people here that aren't doing shit, that they're just a waste of money, that, they need to go, then, like, whose fault is it? It's not his fault. It's the guy before him. They should be blaming that person for hiring all these damn people and thinking they could actually get away with this. So just because he's, like, fixing that, imagine you went to a company, your uncle passed away and he left you a burger joint, and you go to the burger joint, after you pay your respects to your uncle, really sad, get over the grief, and you say, all right, well, I gotta, work on Uncle John's burger joint. So you go to the burger joint and you look at the books and you see that they're a mess, and you say, well, I wonder why Uncle John's burger joint's losing so much money. And you go to the back and you see that there's 15 cooks instead of two cooks at most other burger joints. You say, okay, that's a little weird. And then you go to the cashier and you see that there's 4 cashiers for every actual cash register. So that's a little strange. Uncle John had really weird business practices. Should they be upset at you when you fire them? I don't think so. I think they should be upset at Uncle John for kind of like, if they should be upset at all, they should be happy that they got a free ride. But nobody should be upset with you for ending the parade and party that was just ridiculous. So I think that's kind of what's going on with Twitter. People are upset at Elon Musk when it was just this irrational insanity that was prevailing not only there, but a lot of other software companies, Salesforce.com, even at Microsoft probably there's a little bit of this. I think they work pretty hard at Microsoft though. And other tech companies where people are clocking in a couple hours a week and still getting paid, still getting not just paid, but paid really well. And that's becoming the new normal. And look at this recession we're in. Part of it, I think, could be because of these kinds of work from home practices and stuff like that. So trashing Elon is I think, really crazy because if anybody should be trashed, it's the person that misled you into taking this job, and you being sort of like, unfortunately gullible enough to believe that this kind of nirvana where you didn't have to work and you could just sit around and play politics all day would last forever. And now you're realizing you have to work, and it's really tricky, and it sucks. If you thought you could just get away with not working, and, being part of a bloated organization, even if you're a great worker, you still, like they have all these people on AI ethics and stuff like that. Well, I don't think the company could afford to have AI ethics people right now. Like, they've got bigger things to worry about than AI ethics. They don't do much AI in the first place. They should have some kind of ethics group that sort of makes sure that there's not a lot of misinformation and shit like that. But the AI ethics, like, Twitter's not an AI company. It barely uses any AI anyway. So to me, like, all the stuff that he's cleaning house with makes sense. And people think layoffs are this really sad, bad thing, but like, the reality is, like, if you're not a good fit for a job, and vice versa, it's better for you to leave, quite frankly. And if you have real skills, you'll be in demand anyway. The idea of layoffs from years ago, decades ago, where you could get laid off and you're in a small town and it's possible that you don't find a job for 6 months, those days are over. In this world, especially tech workers, they can find jobs really quickly. So the old style layoffs where a guy's working at a factory and they lay him off because there's a Chinese competitor or something and he's not going to find a job for the next year, those days are dead. I don't shed any tears for the Twitter people. They even just...
Also, it's not like they're pores or anything. I'm sure they set up for life off of unvested RSUs or not unvested, but vested RSUs or just rate. Even their base was insane.
What I also see with companies, there's so many companies that make the mistake of hiring too many people, and I don't know why they do it. I think it gives them a sense of the company's growing.
Absolutely, it's a mix of that as well as a mix of ego. Because if you have 7,000 people working for you, you all of a sudden feel like you're a big boss that is really a big shot.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous because the more people you get, you have to start hiring people to manage these people, and sometimes it's just very ridiculous what I see. For relatively small companies are trying to do that very often in tech and in crypto, and it's like, my God, what are you doing? And of course, as soon as the crash came, there was so many people that were getting fired, and it was just very cringe because it was so obvious. Like,
yeah, Chris makes a good point that these 10x programmers are really carrying the whole company, and they very rarely get compensated the way they should. You have these product managers, product design managers, all this stuff that's a little, ridiculous. Yoga mats in the office is not probably the most productive thing. All these perks, where the workplace has become like a club. I got into some argument with people over ERGs, which are workplace clubs, where people can meet, hang out, and they form these clubs like black employees at Twitter or something like that. And listen, as you guys know, I'm a pretty big proponent of racial equality in the workplace, and I've done my best to hire as many minorities and put them in positions of power as I could. But I also think that clubs in the workplace of like that are sort of a waste of time. Like, ultimately, the whole company should be working together, not causing divisions within the company by lines of race or something. I think that's nuts. Like, I think that, especially for the company to spend money on this stuff. I had friends at Twitter that felt marginalized because they weren't part of some of these groups, and they felt like some of these groups had a lot of power. And it's just very bizarre that the company would sort of allow for this like weird sort of semi-unionization. Like, it's one thing I totally understand if like you and like the 3 other people in Twitter that are from Argentina want to have a little club or something like that. But all you have to do is just go out for drinks every now and then. You don't have to actually...
Yeah, it doesn't have to be so organized.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. I just think it's just such a, like, sets the wrong tone for what a company should be. And what's also funny, which people, I think somebody just mentioned it, the RSUs. Because the company got taken over at such a high price, literally every employee is going to be rich if they had any RSUs. Because the problem with RSUs in the tech market right now is that they're all worthless. And I'm sorry, stock options. They're all worthless because stocks have gone down so much. So I think like the fact that Musk was cashing everybody out at $54.20 when the stock would be like $20 without Musk. So Musk bought the company for like 10-20 billion more than he should have. And that extra money goes to the Twitter employees who have all those RSUs, so, or those stock options as well. So like he did them a huge favor. You know, most people who got RSUs at Salesforce or these other tech companies, they're looking at a big loss. Their options may never be worth, you know, what they were hoping that they'd be worth. They're probably worth nothing at all. So, you know, if I'm a Twitter employee, I'm saying, well, thank you very much, Elon. You know, these options are. You know, finally worth something, and you know, what a great excuse to cash them out and leave. You know, I mean, that's sort of like a home run. You know, and go find another company to work at. To me, that's a win. So I don't know. The whole thing is kind of nuts. I think people are just looking for someone to be mad at, and you know, Elon Musk can definitely be a dick in a lot of different ways, but. He knows how to run a company. I think that you have to give him a little bit of credit for that. And criticizing the guy like, oh yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, I think he knows what he's doing. He may not be communicating well, but in terms of the actual, like, does Twitter need this many people? I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing on that part. Like, but I don't know.